And we are here, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Fade to Black Alamonte Show Special Edition. I am your host, Donnell Alamonte Morris, and I'm here with Teach, aka Anita Joe, even though I had that reversed, but y'all understand what I'm getting at. Welcome to the show.
Welcome. Thanks for having me.
All right. So you already know what it is. And also our boy Beast Johnson, he will be coming in a little bit later in the show. He's handling some engagements right now. But I'm just going to start the show off. I'm doing something like out of the ordinary. Start off with a little something like this to get you prepared. Oh, and just speaking of the devil, here he is. Beast Johnson, welcome to the show, man.
Good evening.
Welcome.
Hi, Beast.
How you doing, Tish? How we doing this evening?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
Doing good. Had to get some prerequisite practice out the way.
That's good. Unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Bragg, Alan Bragg, will not be joining us today, but he will be coming back soon. So today is just us three and you, the audience. Now, as I was going to continue, I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to do something to dive into what we're talking about today. And obviously, you already see the title, All Lives Matter Narrative. And so before we even give any of our thoughts, I want to start off with this.
Phrase Black Lives Matter has gained traction all around the world. The phrase All Lives Matter is facing backlash. CBS 2's Carolyn Gussoff explains this.
Black Lives Matter. The Black Lives Matter mantra, a sorrowful rallying cry, at times answered with this retort. All lives matter, not just black lives. An obvious statement, all lives matter, but in this moment seen as twisting the Black Lives Matter message, just when the nation is focused on the deep wounds of racism. It's unleashed a flurry of explainers.
I don't think that the people that are posting all lives matter should be canceled. I think they should be educated.
Now, I realize that it is dismissive.
For example, if you ran into someone that was trying to raise awareness for breast cancer, and then you said, whoa, wait, there are other types of cancers too, that is not cool.
Sometimes stated in quiet posts, all times hurtful, says Sydney Daniel, a Long Island nurse who's heard it shouted in anger this week.
It's how they're saying it. It's kind of like, all lives matter, so just go home. What's the issue? Some people don't even know how racist they actually are by that comment.
Dismissive of a painful history that Black lives have not appeared to matter to everyone, born out of the acquittal of George Zimmerman and the murder of Trayvon Martin. Hofstra University professor of rhetoric Tamika Robinson says the All Lives Matter response tries to remove race from what needs to be a race discussion.
It is tone deaf, and they don't get that what they're saying is deracializing a movement. But there are certainly some bad actors that absolutely are using it as a way to silence and a tool of further oppression, just saying, like, we shouldn't deal with this. This is not a real issue. This is not an American issue.
Yet others say all lives is an expression of support for police, the vast majority who do their jobs honorably. Long Island radio host Eric Koppelman.
All Lives Matter simply says that we as a people, we as human beings, we as mankind need to live together and to be able to survive peacefully. And it's not an insult.
That's not the way Francesca Miranda hears it. The Justice for George organizer thinks the counter slogan misses the point.
When you say Black Lives Matter, you don't say only Black Lives Matter.
Protesters say you wouldn't need a Black Lives Matter movement if all lives truly mattered. Implied in the slogan is the unwritten word Black Lives Matter also. In Westbury, Long Island, Carolyn Gussoff, CBS 2 News.
So I want to open up the show on a different note, which leads to the opening statements. And you already know how that goes. Beast Johnson, we're going to start off with you today.
All right. Welcome everybody to the show. Excuse my hair, I ain't got it done yet. But alas, after watching that video, there's not much I could really add other than the blanket statement of when you go against a point and it's a rational logic point like Black Lives Matter, and to retort that all lives matter is not only, you know, very disrespectful, is dehumanizing to other people and other races who don't feel as though their lives matter and they agree with the Black Lives Matter movement, hence why they're out there in support as well. So I just want people to really think about words, and when you say words in a certain arrangement, you have to make sure there's no logical counterpoint. Like, nobody should be a homegrown lawyer and be able to dissect your words and use them against you. But when you make statements like all lives matter, it's pretty much an open field. So, be mindful of your words, and be mindful of the tone in which you say your words. Because you might mean it from a sincere place, but if it comes in an aggressive manner, it's taken completely as anger and possible racism.
Good evening, everyone. If we must die, let it not be like hogs, hunted and pinned in an inglorious spot, while round us bark the mad and hungry dogs, making their mock at our accursed lot. If we must die, oh, let us nobly die, so that our precious blood may not be shed in vain. Then even the monsters we defy shall be constrained to honor us through death. O kinsmen, we must meet the common foe. Though far outnumbered, let us show us brave, and for their thousands blows deal one death blow. What though before us lies the open grave? Like men, we'll face the murderous, cowardly pack, pressed to the wall, dying but fighting back. These are the words of Claude McKay. And I open up this session with this poem that was written during another time period in our lives, but it's very appropriate for us right now. If we must die, let it not be like hogs. Good evening, and I welcome each and every one of you to Fade in Black Show. My comments are simply on the topic of all lives matter. This where we can agree. Yes, all lives do matter. But right now, there is one life or group of lives within the African American community that's being targeted and hunted down like hogs. And in this country, we don't feel, because of the injustice because of the absurd reason why a person will die. Going to the store for some Skittles and a tea ends up in death. Selling a cigarette was considered or called a Lucy. You die. Sleeping in your bed, you wake up dead. Black lives matter. All lives is an insult to the crucial racial issue at hand. Thank you.
Thank you, Teach, for that. And also, Peace Johnson. Now is my turn. So I had something else on my mind that I wanted to start off with, but unfortunately, it goes to somewhere different. I'm trying to go on my Facebook. I'm trying to look for the show as I got my phone right here, and I'm also on my tablet right here. Also, we're live on YouTube, by the way. I'm not finding any of my videos that I will go share out to other groups to let them know that I'm on live. So I don't know if it's a Facebook thing or if it's a glitch. I don't know. But I will say this. I honor it. Usually when you see something happen, something like this, like you see in the protest where you have the police doing what they do and all that stuff, I see it as a badge of honor. That means that this show is pushing buttons. And this is what this show is supposed to do. Now, I know I be preaching a little bit about we control the narrative, we make the narrative and all that stuff. I really mean it when I say it. And this right here, I don't know if it's just me that they're doing it to. I don't know if it's doing with y'all. I see that we got a few people watching the show. But that means that we are doing our part. We are here to have the uncomfortable conversations. We are here to help you. I won't say help you. Help. Nah, I keep saying help. Understand? I think understand is becoming a very loose word. You're in our world. And what we give you, you either take it or you leave it. This goes beyond the conversation. This goes beyond the understanding. This goes beyond having a talk. This is now a time for us, not even us, for you, to sit down and listen. You know how like that the speaker will always say, or that teacher will always say, hold your applause till after the show or till after the teaching. This is one of those times. And definitely with deep diving into this topic, it needs to be talked about. Because one thing I do not want to do when I have my panel on here or when I have guest panels is to just keep talking about, us black people, what we need to do, what we should not, what we should not do, and what our goals and what our solution should be for us. I don't want to just keep it on that. I want to aim also at what got us in this situation in the first place, where people just didn't want to listen. And you're going to hear it. Rather than just hearing just complaints about it, we're going to tell you everything, not on surface value, but deep value. Like not deep value, but going deeper into the issue and then getting the solutions. Because we could talk about what black people, what we need all day and every day. And you see how that worked. Like my mom always told me, people love to tell somebody else, but never want to tell themselves. Now we're going to tell a little something about yourself and the solutions that we need to get down to. And then a lot of black activists will always say, definitely the deep conscious ones, they always say white supremacy take both sides of the arguments. Meaning, doesn't matter if they're Democrat, liberal, progressive, or if they're Republican or conservative or libertarian. They're both white supremacists. And honestly, that is a big generalization. Big generalization. So we here on this show to take out what we know, who they are, no matter if they're liberal, Democrat, Republican, or conservative. We're going to call you out. And we're going to not even just tell it like it is. Going to tell you how it has been and our solutions to change it. So enough about me. Let me get everybody else up on here. Any alibis before we go into the main story?
Alibis?
Any of them?
Well, you saw my alibi earlier. That's my alibi most nights. You know, looking the way I do. I make sure I have some kind of audience and some kind of phone signal. Yeah, I'm bouncing off the right tower. You can never say it was me.
Got you. What about you, Cheech?
No, none at this time.
All right. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go. So now we jump into the main story, which is the All Lives Matter narrative. This is something that's been happening since Black Lives Matter became more than just a hashtag. Protests all over the country, now all over the world. They are feeling the pain that we feel on a daily basis. But you still got people out there that believes that, look, yes, y'all have problems, but so do I. To a simple, oh, if I got a cut on my finger, all my other fingers matters too. We're going to dispel this narrative. I know it's been done countless times over the media. Even people that don't even look like us are explaining how disingenuous All Lives Matter movement is. So I was trying, other than that video you just saw from the jump of the show, something really triggered me into doing this show and do it with all the passion that I have within me. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, I used that dreaded T word, triggered. Yes, it did. And it's this post right here. And I'm going to let y'all know, I said it before, I say it again. Facebook is a public platform. And the name that you see right there, I did not my Facebook, but I did have a Facebook friend that reposted this post. And just reading this, it just made me angry to the core that this person, not even the person that posted the picture, but this person who just sit here and like take a picture of me up with this sign, make this go viral, and sit there saying this. We just agree that we all matter and quit making it about race? This is the biggest issue and the biggest problem that we have with dealing with All Lives Matter. Because I can guarantee you, and then also we got another, great to have Martin back. Welcome back to the show, Martin.
Hey, my brother, good to be here.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome back.
Good.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. And so I guarantee you, this man who put this post up here probably wouldn't have the conversation that we should be having. Because I promise you, he probably was just going to be like, no. See, look, you know, it's that yeah, but. So this post really did trigger me, but then again, it sums up when I hear All Lives Matter. Anybody can jump in.
I'll use the conversation I had with my girlfriend when we was talking about the Black Lives Matter, and like my retort to it would just simply, yeah, if all things matter, then that presence and that energy would have been present long before, thus making your point valid and logical. You'd be able, like writing the paper, you'd be able to cite references and resources to your point. Like I said, by saying all lives matter, it's very dehumanizing, because if all lives matter, as a white man making that statement, then what's the issue with the Mexicans and all other forms of immigrants? Why did you as your people feel the need to completely massacre a people down to less than 40 acres in the mule? If all lives matter. We're speaking historically. We're speaking facts. We're speaking things on paper. So if your point was valid, you'd be able to at least cite one thing to give your point some kind of validity. But like you said earlier, by looking at this man, he is not one of those individuals. He's the type of individual you get mad because you know any reasonable conversation would just drive you to pure quote unquote black rage. Because he's not going to be upfront. He's going to give you the yeah, but, and a person like me will probably retort, yeah, but I could have whooped your ass by now for making such a blanket racist statement, but I didn't. See, that's how you truly use yeah, but. I'm still willing to have a conversation with you like a civil human. Man to man, human to human. Let's discuss this. If it's not about race, then talk to me.
Teach.
Okay. I want to take us back a little bit and bring us forward and put things into context. If we go back to the Emancipation Proclamation that declared those in servitude to be free men and women. Progressing forward to that, we go to the 13th Amendment. And it's the 13th Amendment that actually creates, quote unquote, the law that says it's illegal to enslave people of color. Then we go to the 14th Amendment that grants African Americans African Americans the right to citizenship. And then the 15th Amendment that gives African American men the right to vote. Now, the reason why I bring this up is that from a historical vantage point, it is always the African American on this soil that pushes the envelope of diversity in this nation. I'll repeat that. It is the African American that pushes the envelope of diversity in this nation. And what I mean is this: because the African Americans fought and advocated through abolitionists and ultimately through the war, the African Americans were able to gain freedom. But if you look at the 13th Amendment that gives freedom and outlaws slavery, that pertains to all people in the land. Because we know also we had a history of Native Americans also being enslaved. So the 13th Amendment not only covered the African Americans, but other people who found themselves in servitude and or slavery in the United States of America. Going forward, after slavery, we go into the Reconstruction period. And there's a book by W.E.B. Du Bois that I urge everyone that's interested in history, period, to read, and it's called Black Reconstruction. During Black Reconstruction, there was the first time African American men had power to vote, as well as to get elected into key offices as mayors, governors, councilmen, deputy governors, and so forth and so on. And some of the policies that were created in during the Reconstruction period was a policy for education for all. Many times we overlook and we think that education was free for everyone. Prior to Reconstruction, if you were white and wealthy, your children could attend school. So that meant masses of poor whites, Native Americans, Asians, and other races did not have an opportunity for an education. So it is through the Black governors that they put into legislation that all citizens of the United States, or all citizens of that particular state, could attend school, public school. So my point is being, because African Americans pushed the envelope of diversity in America, other racial groups will piggyback upon that movement. And what we see happening with the All Lives, quote unquote, movement or blowback is more of a blowback than a movement. All Lives Matter is simply trying to diminish the role that white people play in the pain of those that have suffered and lost their lives at the hand of police brutality or other civilians who have deputized themselves. So historically, we see that it is the African American that says, okay, America, you wrote a constitution that, if you look at it, it includes all men. But in the application, the functionality of our day-to-day life and our society is very exclusive for white men. And so as African Americans, we have to raise our voices and our concern that this is not working for, quote unquote, us Americans. So to the picture of the man that said, let's not make it about race. Why not? If he wanted to raise the issue that police brutality is an issue, okay, there's many races that are in the uniform, and there's many races that may suffer police brutality, but that is not the issue that he's raising. So again, statements like his only further to distract from the real problem or the main problem. And I say this, I believe it was just yesterday that I believe it was the state of California that approved a reparations bill for their state. And then the Native Americans are saying, well, we need reparations too. We want to get in on the reparations for African Americans. And if you ever look back at reparations that were paid to Germany, France, Japan, it's paid to that racial group that was harmed and is done singly. They didn't mix up the reparations for France and Germany. They paid France what France was due. They paid Germany what Germany was due. So, to that end, I do not think that we should mix the reparations for the others, but that's the continued history of piggybacking on everything that the African Americans do. And with that, I'll yield the floor.
Oh, I like that. Yield the floor. Gotcha. All right, Mr. Martin, floor is yours.
Yeah, let me just piggyback on that. Bunk that whole ideal of all lives matter. The whole point of this is that they never saw Black lives mattering at all. So because they, talking about non-African Americans, never saw Black lives mattering at all, it's imperative for us to talk about Black lives matter. Black people matter. Black ideals matter. And I wouldn't dumb it down to saying all lives matter. The given with white folks is that when they say all lives matter, they only talking about themselves. So we need to have a singular message. The sister was absolutely correct. When it comes down to reparations, everybody tries to jump on the bandwagon. However, our situation is unique. Native Americans actually have received some reparations. We've not received anything. We've not even received a national apology, and that wouldn't be enough. So everything that we do has to be singular and focus. We need to come together as one voice. We need to come together as one people. When I'm talking about African American people, I'm not talking about Americans. I'm talking about Black folks here who built this country on our backs and who have suffered at the hands of the folks who put us to work with no pay. So we need reparations. And let's kind of get away from, I think the biggest challenge that we have is the fact that we're always so inclusive. So I think the Black folks need to stop being inclusive. We need to be selfish at this particular point. They were selfish about putting us to work. We should be selfish about getting paid for that work. And if we looked at what that monetary value should be, and Sister Anita could probably go back a little bit further and give education on what actually happened with the 40 acres and the mule, which of course we never received. We got Joe at that particular point also, where they decided to throw a bank in the mix and have us to believe that it'd be better for us to borrow the money instead of getting the 40 acres and the mule. But it's important for all of us that we have a single message, and that message should be Black Lives Matter. And anyone that says anything other, they don't even deserve the conversation of whether or not all lives matter or not. There's an awesome song, and I'll end with this, that said, "What a fool believes he sees, no wise man has the power to take it away." So some of these folks, if you try to have these conversations, it's what a fool believes he sees. And you just wasted your time when you're trying to have that conversation with them about whether or not Black lives matter. We need to have a single focus. Stick with that focus. Stick with that message. Become one in unity and move forward in requesting, demanding, and explaining exactly what we want for reparations.
Hey, all those I agree with each and every one of you what y'all exactly said. As you can see, I'm sitting over here continuing to write notes and all that great stuff. But which lead me to this question that I'm gonna give to you, Mr. Martin. So my pal buddy who I don't think y'all saw that comment that I put up like a while back where he said, unfortunately, this stems from media nowadays. Hopefully he's still watching. So to follow up to what he is saying, I'm gonna give my end. I'm gonna ask the question. Media been doing this to us for a while now, since the first newspaper to the last broadcast of the day. We have always been scrutinized to being the evil Black man or the evil Black people. If you can go back to when it comes to us, it's the Black man, or when it comes to white folks, it's like the lone gunman and all that stuff. So this is not the media nowadays, this is what the media have always been. So to ask this question to you, Martin, for the media, do they play a crucial role in what they put? I mean, like that they pushed out for all lives matter. Not talking about Black Lives Matter, but for all lives matter, and just put them as the understanding rather than when they report on Black Lives Matter, there's something fishy, there's something wrong.
Absolutely. Let's be real clear. We can never expect someone else to do the job that we need to do. Period. I think that's one of the problems with our quote unquote movement is that we're asking permission from the folks who quote unquote have the power. Power is not conceded; it's taken.
It's taken.
If we look at it from the standpoint of I can care less about the white media. I can care less about what other folks think. I care more about what we think and how we do things. And when we come into a position where we have the dollars and we have the power to create our own media, we shouldn't let that go. I say this all the time when I've had conversations with Oprah, and I had conversations with Oprah on a few different occasions because I didn't necessarily agree, although I appreciate what she's been able to mask. I don't appreciate her delivery. Let me give you an example. She started to own network. It was 100% or 94% African American owned. And then she sold out for the dollar. So now I believe she owns 16%. She sold it. She sold the own network along with the other entities in National Geographic and the other ones for $1.7 billion. Now, she was already making money with her stations. And my thing is, in order for us to get a Black message out, it has to be a Black outlet. I don't know why we expect other folks to give us fair representation when we ourselves don't own that venue. So we should go to the Black-owned stations. We should only tune in on the Black-owned stations. We should only buy Black, do Black, sleep Black, stay away from eating crackers in bed, and continue to do what we can do in order to support ourselves. I'm all in favor of Black businesses, Black schools, Black communities, Black money circulating in the Black community. When other folks see us do it for ourselves, they'll come to the door knocking.
That's true. We saw it with the Black Wall Streets, and then all of, as I call them, chocolate cities, as George Clinton would have called them back in the day. Question still up. Beast Johnson, you have the floor.
I want to start off with the old adage: perception is reality, and there's always been truth to that. But for Blacks in America, it takes on a different approach and a different term. The term I started to use was perceptive image. The way in which you carry yourself, you build all these things, people build up this automatic personality about you. Like for me, example, when most people see me on the street, and I've been told this since about 14, 15 years old. If you catch me on the street listening to some music, just minding my own business in the zone, folks say, you look so evil, like you about to go beat somebody up. Like you like the last person I want to make mad. Like somebody to piss you off. I'm like, nah, I'm actually listening to Blind Melon right now. I'm feeling very happy. When like I'm 6 foot, about a good 260, with these dreads, my boys, the way I carry myself, I come off very domineering and dominant to a lot of people. And some people are very taken off and taken back by me just for simple things. And it's nothing that I have done myself. It's just how they automatically perceive me. Because I have a low voice, if I speak up to make sure that you hear me, it can be perceived as me yelling at you or me being aggressive. When merely I'm just increasing my volume to make sure that I'm clearly heard.
See, to me, you look like a king.
Yeah, so you
To
guys
me, you
are.
look like a king, and that's the whole point. You look like a king, so carry yourself like one. Let's stop worrying about what other people.
That's how I feel
Absolutely,
too.
I'm agreeing with you. I'm agreeing with you. Let's stop worrying about what how other people perceive us. Let's start wearing the mantle of kingdom, which is what we are. And that's the whole piece. It's like we're so worried about what everybody else thinks that we don't worry about what we know. Let's start treating each other. I say we walk around and greet each other as king and queen. Period. I say we clutch our purses when we get around white folk. I say that that without question, let's start showing them how to treat us by treating ourselves that way. Man,
I
take
agree
your
with
6
Mr.
foot,
Davis.
take your 6'2", 260 dread wearing self, put a daggone crown on, wear it proud.
Hey.
And let's enjoy this. Hey, out of fun, back in the day, I was doing Tom Joyner's show, and the show was about it was supposed to be I and Star Jones, and Star Jones had a nationwide date search, and she had and she narrowed it down to 3 folks who she was going to choose, who she was going to date, and 2 of them were real cool brothers, and the third one was a white boy. And she chose the white boy to date, and all this trouble came about because she chose a white guy over the 2 absolutely phenomenal brothers. And so Tom asked me to hold off on the show and come on the next day because they wanted to talk about Star Jones. And so when I came on the following day, I shared with them a little poem entitled "Never Eat Crackers in Bed." It said, my grandmama established my taste buds at an early age, my big mama said. Savor the taste of chocolate chip cookies and never eat crackers in bed. Now, when I was young in the neighborhood, didn't look like me, and Ritz was the flavor instead. I just went on being hungry, just starving myself because I wouldn't eat them crackers in bed. Now, when I got older and thought I was cool, I was hanging with this brother named Fred. Now, I noticed he didn't sound like me. He seemed kind of strange, maybe because he was eating them crackers in bed. Now, one night I snuck out, grabbed this cracker with this cheese and the spread. Early next morning, my breast felt like tuna, my stomach was turned, and I looked at the crumbs of the cracker in the bed. So I called her my big mama and told her what I'd done, and with a very stern voice, she said, boy, you're stupid, you're all messed up. Told you to eat them crackers in bed. She said, if you don't believe me, take a look at OJ and Tiger Woods, as she said, as she nodded her head. She said, them brothers wouldn't be broke if they ate chocolate chip cookies, but instead they ate crackers in bed. Stop eating crackers in bed.
Gotta love the grandma library.
That was awesome.
That was great.
That was awesome.
Teacher,
that was awesome.
I shared that on Tom Joyner's show, and at the time I was serving the city of Detroit, and our mayor was Mayor Dennis Archer, and he pulled me in his office and said, "You can't do that. You're alienating our white audience." Let me look. I like chocolate chip cookies. I say, stop worrying about eating these daggone crackers in bed. We need to do. Let's stand up and be strong and stop being apologetic for the fact that we deserve what we deserve. Black lives matter. They always have, they always will. And the difference is now we're willing to step on your neck and get your knee off of ours to make the point that we matter.
All right, Teach, you got the
I
floor.
agree. All right. Thank you. I enjoyed that last piece. But I want to say this, 2 things. One, my very first trip to Africa was in 1997, and I was blessed to buy many African garments, both male and female, and just the power of connecting with Africa. I've seen it transform in my living room. So I would call friends over that I bought outfits for, and I was like, come, I got this outfit for you, and I'll let them pick out which one they want, and they would go change and come back, and with a stride like a king. And one by one, each of the men did that, and each of the females did that. So I saw the transformation from just taking off the European clothing and putting on the African clothing. It instantly instilled pride and a pride that I know that each and every day that we should exhibit um, in our home lives and our professional lives. Also, when I was working for the county in Ohio, every function that we had, I would always wear my African outfits. In a particular job, it was unique for me because I worked with 8 different African nationalities, and they wore, the American style clothing. And each function, they said, "Oh my goodness, I should have wore my outfit from home." So before I left there, by the time I left, every African began to wear their own clothing from home, and then the African Americans began to purchase those clothing. And every time we had a specific affair, we would come dressed in our African attire. So that way, I was able to permeate the culture, the dress culture, and lift up that vibration and having that pride in self. Then the second point that I wanted to make, it goes back to the beginning and the formation of this nation. Well, after Reconstruction, um, there was the film industry, and one of the most notable films made during that time, it did a job on this nation, and it has been perpetuated ever since. So, in addition to having that pride, we have to break this cycle that's in this monster. Um, if you ever have a chance to take a film class or a film history class, one of the first things that you will learn is that they will tell you that film is propaganda, and that every film has certain tenets that must be met to qualify it as a valid film. And because this is America, America has an idea or ideal that they want to project as the American ideal. And that's why these tenets always have to be in the movie. And I'm going to go off on a tangent, but I'm going to come back. Um, so if you see these apocalyptic films, where the earth or the world as we know it ends, and at the end there's always 2 humans left, a male and a female. The whole world is decimated. So think back in your mind, any apocalyptic film, you never see 2 women survive at the end. You never see 2 men survive at the end. At the end, it is always one man and one woman, and their job, as the sun is setting and the credits are rolling across the screen, their job is implied that they shall repopulate the earth. That has to be in every film. If it's not in there, it is not a film. Okay. So, having said that, understanding the basis of propaganda. In 1915, a man by the name of D.W. Griffith created a film that was originally called The Klansman. And they changed the name to The Birth of the Nation. And the purpose of this film was to instill fear in the North, instill fear in the Republicans, because uh, prior to the Emancipation Proclamation, most or the majority of blacks lived in the South. So, with creating this film called The Klansman and their campaign of redemption, their purpose was to, quote unquote, educate the North on who and what this newly freed African is. And it paints the picture of the black man being a beast, that he's always horny, and he's looking for white women to ravage. Okay. Um, the black woman as the sexual Venus, she's just ready to have sex with every white man 24 hours a day. Then they explored the whole idea of the black mammy and the tragic mulatto. So all of these stereotypes, and the Sambo character, all of these stereotypes began actually before this movie, but it was put in film. and it was so powerful, it gripped the nation. And at that time, the NAACP was strong enough to at least get it not to show in certain cities. So I'm saying all this to say that we have very powerful media tools that are being unleashed on us all the time. And this may have been the first one, but there have been many more. And they get into your subconscious. And so that is the other part of the beast that we have to tame, is the thought that hard concrete jungle that we're trying to survive in. So yes, we put on the African clothes, we put on the mind of a king. We walk in our divinity. We walk in our godness. We walk in our goddessness. And at the same time, when we are in our God state, we have to fight our enemy. And our enemy is the media. And the media is very persuasive. People just believe without fact checking. They believe without any critical thinking. So it's more than taking your place. Once you take your place, your position is to fight to hold your place. And I yield the floor.
Right. So it's not right for me to give out the questions and don't answer it myself. So going back, trying to put everybody statements into one, but to Mr. Martin's point, ownership.
Mm-hmm.
You got to own it. I mean, that's the first step in controlling the narrative, aka I'm gonna keep saying it, this show. But I mean, I give Roland Martin props. I give other platforms out there that's actually going out on a limb with podcasts and be like, you know what? I'm sick and tired of what I'm hearing on Fox News. I'm sick and tired of what I'm hearing on CNN. I'm sick and tired of what I hear on my local news. I gotta do something. But I can't go. Let me go back to what I said like a long time ago on the show. We got to get the news from somewhere. So I say if I could trust any news source that I get, it has to be from the local news. CNN, yeah, they are owned by a conglomerate, just like everybody else. But don't forget, there are reporters that actually are putting in the work that, yes, they do be like, hush, hush. If you're not meeting the status quo, it's not going to be pushed out there. So by me saying that, we need ownership, I'm not taking away from the reporters that's working for these entities that are actually is putting in the work. But ownership is the answer. And I believe there's another all black news media. I forgot what's called. I think it's called the blacknewschannel.com. I'm giving them free press. They did not pay me. Just let y'all know. Don't even cut the check neither. But there's actually a platform out there that's actually doing black news out there right now. But I'm not only just talking about ownership in media. It's ownership in land, ownership of like all types of businesses, which I've been seeing growing rapidly, which is great. It's a small step, but guess what? Steps are being made. And even from the one sources that I tend to watch more, they will always say those things that y'all all have said. And it just made me just sit back. Like, you have a lot of these black activists or black politicians or these analysts that are black on these shows, have them as guests. Y'all having a kumbaya moment, but when they're gone, you go back to the same old. And it's getting to the point where it's just like, why should we come back on these shows? Bad enough, the only time you would use a black analyst or a black contributor is when it's dealing with issues like these. That's the only time. It's never a time where they will use them to talk about, world issues, stop dealing with Africa or stock market or anything like that. I think I got to give the devil his due. Fox News is the only one, is the only network that actually have a black man with his own show, and it's a stock market show, and that's Fox Business. But you know, who watch Fox Business? People watch Fox News. Fox Business is like the second tier to the actual big network, just like Fox Sports 1 and you got FS2 or ESPN and ESPN2. Who watch ESPN2? Just saying. So ownership. And one of you, I think two of you actually brought this up, and this is going to lead to my next question, which I'm going to start off with Teach. Reparations. If you was drawing up the bill, what would be the main, like the first thing that you would put in that bill?
That is a very, very, very good question. For me, reparations, I believe that we have reparations to collect from more than one source, more than one land base. For me, I would look to Africa for reparations, specifically in Nigeria, where there's oil, South Africa, where there's diamond, Angola, where there's diamonds. Um, I want my land. I want my land that my family lost because they were removed from Africa. And who's not to say that any of those lands that's bearing those minerals is not my original homeland? I'm quite sure if we do enough research, we can get right back to the very tree and plot of land that my people came from. Um, so for reparations, it's two-part. I would want African reparations in terms of land, and two, the monetary. I mean, the monetary reparations from the United States. All of the private families that own slaves that are still in business today. Families like the Massengills, if you know, that's the female products. They were slave owners, and they have made their money from slavery, and they're still in business today. And look into all of the banks, insurance companies, Barclays Bank, and others, and make them all accountable. Now, the argument is, yes, it was my family, they owned slaves, but I myself didn't own a slave. And the argument still is, but you're still spending the money that my grandmother did not get. So even though you personally did not own slaves, but you have benefited from that egregious act of taking or not providing the income for the labor that built your family, the wealth that it still continue to possess today. We've seen with this COVID-19 how the United States of America just pulled $1 trillion out of the air and validate that cost in terms of reparations, which it'll probably be more than what they did. But for so many years, or people believe that the United States just wasn't capable of coming upon that kind of money. One narrative that I do not like when I hear certain reparations is the notion that African Americans are not capable of handling their finances. And my position is whether they are or whether they are not has nothing to do with the fact that the invoice has been printed and you need to pay.
Now, I'm sorry, Teach, go ahead.
Yeah, so so that's the first thing that comes to my mind. We have many areas to look into. If you look into CARICOM, which is the conglomerate of Caribbean islands, they put forth a reparations bill that outlined various things that they want, and they sued the UK and they lost. And what's happening in the United States, the last I checked, they were looking at the reasoning that been presented as to why they lost their case, so that the United States can build their case. And another component, I seen the question asked, uh, would the 1% rule be in place for who would get reparations? And I think we need to look at that percentage rule. And the reason why is because I suspect that many non-white mothers of mixed babies that have that 1% or 50% mixed blood, they're going to be the first one in lines, and they're going to get a check for their children before you and I get a check, before
Yep.
my mother get a check, my great grandmother get a check. So I think DNA tests would have to be in line and in order, because I do realize, and I've seen this play out with the reparations of the Native Americans and the benefits of the Native Americans. There are individuals that are Caucasian that would claim that they are Native American, and to receive whatever benefits that Native Americans receive. And I seen this play out in the state of Kentucky. I was just
Yep.
really floored
Mhm.
as to how many Caucasians claim that they're Native American.
Backstory to that
And
was we went there together, and she was surprised. I wasn't, because I'm
oh
used to it back
yeah,
in
we
Virginia.
did go. We
Yeah,
did
we
go.
was there with a couple of the other classmates, and the look on your face was priceless. She was looking like, I just put you like this.
Where are the Native Americans? Where are
Right.
the Native Americans? We were at a powwow, and I was expecting to see the Indians. I wanted to see the Indians.
Yeah,
you
cause,
know, in my naivete. But even at the school that I worked at, there were some individuals. I won't say that they were not Native American, because I don't know. But they look Caucasian, but they had claimed the status of being Native American, so that the school would have, or could show that they had a diverse staff.
there you go, Cheech. Before I jump to Mr. Martin, my bellboy right now, he's commenting and all that. So thank you. Goza, you actually the first person who had a different view, and this is what I've been asking for. And so I just want to just let everybody know, if you want to add on to the comment or like answer his comments that he made, the floor is yours. Al Martin, if you don't have anything to answer the question of reparations, it's on to you. Floor is yours.
Hey, one, I can't see the comments that the other people are making, but
Okay.
as far as reparations are concerned, my first would be, and my first of many, the very first would be property. I love what the sister said about property back in the motherland. However, I don't know how that I don't know how that would how that would look. Um, and I say that only because the term reparation in itself is a payment from those who have basically done us wrong. Here in the United States, for me, my first would be property. The second would be the finances to work the property. The third would be the finances for education. The fourth would be a total calculation of every single dollar that was not paid before. In today's standard, for that to be calculated per day, per week, per month, per year, and then add COLA, the cost of living allowance, to it. And then that be given on top of on top of free education. I'm talking about higher education, on top of seed dollars for whatever business, and that should not be contingent upon somebody else's approval. On top of the dollars to farm, produce, build thereon, and the property in and of itself. And so the property, rather, that's the 40 acres that we never received. And by the way, it's real important to understand what has happened in other parts of the world. The Black loyalists that were the Blacks in the Holocaust of slaves, that in the Holocaust of slavery, that followed the white loyalists, those who were loyal to England, and followed them up the East Coast up to Canada and the Nova Scotia area, and in the Newfoundland area. All of those Black families were received 100 acres of land. In the 60s, in the end of the 60s, of the 1960s, many of those white folks in Canada went and reclaimed the land from the Black folks, because the Black folks were never shown how to get the deeds of the 100 acres that they were given. And they were given these 100 acres in 3 areas, 2 of which were known as West Preston and the Prestons. And it's some beautiful land. As a matter of fact, I got a chance to go through Mother Rosa Parks to try to help some of the Black Canadians secure their land. So it's real important that not in addition to just receiving the land, that all the rights, the mineral rights, the finances to build on that land, all of the dollars that would make up an educational attainment that would be equivalent to the best of education in this country, and the dollar that would be calculated again from in today's standard for every single day that our ancestors put in work here that were not paid, plus the cost of living allowance added on to it. So that would be my start as far as looking at reparations.
I would just I just want to read off a list. It's the 10-point plan that was put forth through CARICOM. And I'll just read off the titles, not necessarily the definitions. But 1, they want a full formal apology. 2, repatriation. 3, indigenous people development program. 4, cultural institutions. 5, public health crisis. 6, illiteracy eradication. 7, African knowledge program. 8, psychological rehabilitation. 9, technology transfer, and 10, debt cancellation. So that was the 10 points that they put forth through CARICOM that failed. And they did not win. So
not
I believe they're in appeal status.
Yeah, not one of those 10 points addresses property, finances, back payment. And that's what, and that's the point that I want to make. We need to make sure that whatever we present, that it's in totality, it's a grandiose plan, that we look at every facet of it, and that has to include the foundations of wealth in this country. Those foundations, the number one foundation is land. So it has to have land. Number 2 is finances. Our finances. So it has to include finances. Number 3, it has to include the reparations of retribution. That would have to be a dollar amount that would go towards every single hour that was spent working. And those are the things that I love. Everything else that's on that list, but if that top 10 doesn't include those top 3, then we've missed the point.
And then I would like to address, was it David Gosa?
Yeah, David Gosa.
He wrote that
Which comment? You talking about the first one?
No, not the first one, because he's written a lot. But basically that he doesn't have any money, and therefore he doesn't feel and I hope I'm not
Oh,
quoting him
this one right
wrong. I don't want to misrepresent him,
Oh yeah, there
but
you go.
but the thing is that I want to point out is that with the research that's being done, not every white racial group was actually slave owners. So if you really know your history and you didn't own slaves, your family didn't own slaves, they're not going to take anything from you. They can't really take what you don't have anyway. And that's something that needs to how could I say, people that don't or didn't own slaves, they feel somehow special. They feel like, oh, they're going to come after me because I'm white. No, only certain racial groups within the white um, ethnics actually own slaves.
Hmm.
So, so the Irish people would be negated because basically they didn't own slaves. They came over here slaves themselves.
And the Irish did.
So
The Irish did own slaves, though. My family, which we happen to be, the Martins happen to be one of very few who have actually traced our roots all the way back to our first ancestor that came from Sierra Leone here, and it was actually an Irish family that we were purchased by. So but the key on that though is not the individual; it's the country. The country has benefited from the backs of from the backs of those in the Holocaust of slavery. It wouldn't be about going to the individuals. It would be about this country paying the reparations because this country was built on our backs. So I'm not worried about going to the individuals. I'm worried about this country paying the debt. Let the country go and get the money back from them. But this country was built on the backs of our ancestors.
You basically doing this. Hey, this is what you owe. Now take care of it.
Absolutely.
I got you, Mr. Martin.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean they do it with college students that haven't with the debts that they probably going to finish paying off by the day they die. Hey, we just reversing the roles on you. So whatever you get that money, that's your problem. As long as I get what I'm owed, we fine. But until then, go ahead and work on paying that invoice. So to Beach Johnson, we've been leaving you out, Beach Johnson. Go ahead. What do you think needs to be on the record?
I'm like you just sitting back enjoying the conversation. I agree with everything Brother Martin is saying. I would take it a step further. We need the rights to our intellectual property.
There you
go. Anything that was created from a black mind, we deserve and demand the rights, present, past, future, in perpetuity. We came up with it. We deserve the rights to
it. Yeah, that would be real interesting because they would have you believe that those 15 or 20 items that they throw out there on the shortest month of the year, that those few things like the traffic light and the daggone golf tee.
It goes deeper than that.
It goes way deeper than that. Every time you sit on the daggone toilet, you sit on a chair. When you sit back on that daggone chair, think of black man. When you drive your car.
When I speak of intellectual properties, I'm not even talking about like brother Martin speaking in the materialistic, the physical sense, the actual product that comes out. I'm talking about on the other end of that spectrum, like the three black sisters that actually did the math to get somebody to the moon.
Absolutely.
I've done computer programming. I refuse to do it if my life was on the line. I'm never doing. That's too many lines to look at. And
welcome to my line of work.
Like if you could be, and you have to be exact. And three sisters wrote enough mathematical algorithms. They deserve the rights that come from that intellectual part. That's intellect that came from their brain.
Absolutely.
And the product, the physical product, if you're looking for it, is the national was the National Aeronautic Space, pretty much NASA. I can't think of the correct term at the moment, but NASA is the physical product of their hard work, of their intellectual property. So we as black people, we deserve rights to NASA.
That's right. I believe everything that we did. I mean, our hands now, we're basically in it with all these entities and with everything you see right now. Like I just looked up shoes because I was about to go ahead and dissect this gentleman right here. Shoes. I just looked this up. A brother invented the shoes.
Of course, bro. I want people to really sit here and think about life in America, early life in America. Did nobody know how to do nothing, and everything needed to get done. It was hard.
Right.
Leave it to a brother to say to himself, I'm tired of doing it this way. There's got to be an easier way, at least a smoother way.
Like me being a Ford fanatic. I love Ford, but I did know that the very first car was created by a black man. I believe it was somewhere. Tell me if I'm wrong. I know it was somewhere in the vicinity of Ohio. Is that correct? Somewhere in that vicinity?
It's not correct. There was a brother driving around in Mississippi 27 years prior to the Model A being created.
Yeah. Now that sound better. I was about to say
his last name. I can't think of his first name. His last name was Brown.
Because I looked at it. I looked at the history. I just could remember, but they was the ones that made the very first car, the concept of the car. Ford is only getting credit for the assembly line, which people just fail to understand. And then not to mention, freaking when he did, for him to even start up Ford Motor Company, he had to enter into a race, which back in the day was called a sweepstakes. And he won it. And there you go. You got the Ford Motor Company. But he actually went to them to get the concept. He actually bought the concept from them. Which goes back to
like lights. The lights everyone's using right now, the filament inside of the light was created by a black man.
The heart transfusion. Black man. I mean,
like
it's crazy.
Blood transfusion.
No, it's not. It's not crazy.
When we make a mistake, when we start naming off what we invented. It would be easier for us to name what we did not invent.
True. It'd be a quicker list. It would be a quicker list.
It'd be a lot faster list. I love what you said. If it was the intellectual, if we receive credit for the intellectual property that came from the black male and female mind.
Exactly, Brother Ghost.
We'd have to change the name of this country to the United States of a blackness.
Not Africa Junior. Call it Little Africa.
Okay, I'm gonna ask a question and give you a thought behind the question. The question is, for those that know the Bible, and I'm not inferring that it's a body of belief or anything. I'm just gonna ask a question. Is a scripture that says, "Ye are the salt of the earth." What does salt do?
Seasons, preserves.
Yeah.
It seasons, it preserves. So who is the salt?
Black people.
We are the salt because every invention comes from the black genius. We are the salt of the earth. Every technology that we created, the world uses. So when it says you are the salt of the earth, people think, oh, they're talking about the Jews. But seriously, what do they contribute? So we have to take what we think we know and apply it to what we do know. We do know that anything new that comes in form of technology comes through the black genius.
And not only just that, Teach, also I was gonna go on to the music side too, because remember back in the 80s, hip hop was just nothing but brothers, just hip hopping in New York, and they just saying nonsense.
Bunch of shuck and jive and drug dealers.
Yeah, it was nothing but, and now look where it is at. It's a multi-billion-dollar business. Who actually owns a record label or actually owns their rights to all their music and don't have to answer to nobody?
I can name you 2 rappers off the top of my head that own their masters. One being Ludacris, and that was through Savvy Business.
Mm-hmm.
And that's currently alive.
Right.
Prince won his master ownership of his entire catalog before he died. So just to put that out there for people, like, he died naturally. The man got all his money back plus some from the record label, and they was mad. Besides, anyway, LL Cool J being the other one, but these are 2 men that LL had to do his entire deal first. He sounded like a 6-7 album, 15-year deal. He had to do that whole deal first. And then the only way they could get him to come back was give him the master.
And see, that's my issue. Why should you have to go through all of that? And that goes back to my point of, like, who fully owns their master? Don't have to go through all the manipulations and all that stuff. Like, I'm gonna redo my contract, or I see this clause up in here, or like, I just want to get out my contract. Who can say that?
Let's so that we don't get lost.
Yeah.
Let's go back to your question, because your question was about reparations and how we and how we would divvy those things up. And we can have the philosophical debate about masters and things like that. I mean, there are different musicians who negotiated the rights for the masters.
Right.
But we're talking about, when we talk about reparations, we're not talking about the masters. We're talking about the creativity that went into it. We're talking about we're talking about what dollar amount. How would we satisfy the notion of reparations? And this is a conversation that really has to be had prior to anyone sitting down with any government official and talking about who gets what. Because there has to be a calculation based on, as brother put it, the intellectual property, the sweat and tears and off of our backs from the labor that we put in, the false promises of everything from land acquisition to voting rights, which, by the way, we never received the right to vote. We received a congressional bill that's voted on every 20 years. Yep. I had brother attorney Fred Gray on my show, who was the person who negotiated for the voting, our voting bill, which was thrown in with 223 other pieces of legislation and is voted on every 20 years. And I asked him specifically, as a matter of fact, I still have the copy of the tape. One day, if I'm blessed to be invited back on the show, we'll play it so you can hear exactly what he was saying. He said that he had to do the best that he possibly could at that particular time. And the best that he can do at that time was getting our congressional bill thrown in with 223 other pieces of legislation that is rubber stamped every 20 years. Now, we say rubber stamped just because it's been stamped every 20 years. It was just stamped 4 years ago. But if the powers to be decide not to stamp that, then much of this is a moot point, because we don't have a right to vote. So many of these things that we're talking about as far as reparations are concerned, we need to fully understand the things that we think we have versus the things that we actually have, the things that we think we should have versus the things we know we should have. And when we start talking about a dollar amount, we can't pass this off. If we let somebody else determine what we get, they calculate every black person in America and say, okay, let's add $100 to the total number of folks and let's divide that after taxes, and we'd all walk around with $75.
No.
Yes. And
You
that
see,
is
see, that's the thing. Until we sit down, truly strategize, and actually come up with a true plan, and not just have conversation, but actually take a look at in each one of those areas, put a dollar amount to those. Let me give you a real quick example, and please forgive me for if it seems like I'm monopolizing the conversation. I'm not trying.
Go ahead.
But back in the mid '80s, there was a push for women's rights, and at that time, we did a calculation of what a housewife should be making. And I'm just put this in perspective of when we start talking about reparations for Black folk. So we took a look at what a housewife, what her value is monetarily. And we're talking about in 1982, 1982 and 1983 when we did this piece. At that time, her yearly salary should have been $147,000 as a housewife, taking into effect everything she was doing, from cleaning to raising to teaching to being a social worker, a sparring partner, a playmate, and taking a look at all those different things. Now, if at that time in '82, that was the value of a single housewife, think about the fact that we've had 400 years of being the surrogate parents to other folks' children. Just in that piece alone, if we calculated that dollar amount per year just for the sisters who took care of white folks' kids.
There you go.
If we simply just look at that. Now that's just one aspect, but we need to take a look at everything, and then come up with a dollar amount, and then negotiate from there. So that we've got meat on the bones of what we're talking about, and we've got factual information that we can bring. Now, if that was the case, then the entire GDP of the United States should then be transferred over to Black folks here, who are the ancestors of those who built this country.
Okay. We got a little bit of background noise going on. I don't know what's going on, but yeah, thank you for sharing that, Mr. Martin. Martin, if you have that on you and you decide to come on the next show or probably another show in the future, you can bring that video on. Just send it through my Facebook. Yeah. So now I want to lead to just want to lead to this next question. Black unity. So let's say with the with Black unity, we got everything we wanted. We got everything, everything black and white. We got all of our ducks in a row.
Absolutely.
And we put it forth. And also we get the right politicians, mainly the people that look like us, that actually have our issues and knows what's going on, have it granted. What would that look like? And I will start with Beast Johnson.
Well, as far as the paperwork or the aftermath of the successful paperwork?
The aftermath.
I feel like the initial, they're gonna try to drag their feet like the emancipation. I do see that, but with technology and the heightened level of political correctness and awareness, they wouldn't drag their feet long. I feel like one thing they would have to add into it would be proper levels of counseling. Just have understanding Black people stand by to talk to disgruntled, unnerved white people that feel something like, look, this is not what y'all think it is. That this is not us coming with shackles and chains about to put you in the cotton field. This is just everybody owning up to their parts. Now we're gonna live. Well, how you live? Like we've been doing, just better. No need. There's no need. There's no need for you to feel weird. There's no need for you to say the N word. But over time, the N word will just become another word. And like we use as a term of endearment, it'll be a term of endearment for you as well. But that's gonna take some time. So I feel like initially, you just need that counseling. Well,
Gotcha.
we get there.
All right. Apologize. We lost two of, I guess, that hopefully they're not having no technical difficulties or anything like that, but they're gonna be popping into the show. For me, what unity will look like, I believe that we will be going to the old days of Black Wall Street, where you have thriving businesses, Black businesses all together, and we won't be trying to go gung ho on. Let me see if he comes up. Trying to go gung ho on trying to take each other out of business. Mr. Martin, you're back. I was just adding in my little 2 cents on the question, answering the question. So, floor is yours.
Yours,
Ms. Martin.
If you don't mind, would you repeat the question? Because I kind of lost the signal there for a moment.
Okay. All right. The question was Black unity. After everything been said and done, this is basically after all the things that we asked for. What will it look like?
Forgive me, I'm not sure if you can hear me or not.
Yes, I can. We hear you.
Dollar, it would look like the black dollar circulating in the Black community about 25 to 30 times before it leaves. It would look like doctors, lawyers, sanitation engineers, teachers, unemployed, and everyone living in the same community and assisting one another. Population. In the city of Detroit, we're 83.4% African American in the city. 83% of those businesses should be Black owned.
Yes.
Percentage wise.
Yeah.
So those would, it would look like colleges and universities and the school system providing young folks. It would look like our young people having internet access and computers there. It would look like the school system would be set up in a Montessori style, so that cookie cutter European version of education. It would look like a language was created specifically to address the languages that are spoke in the inner cities. So it would be a total metamorphosis of what.
Great.
Yeah, I agree too.
Now, as far as the business, the
And
business
I'm not sure if you're
ownership.
all able to hear me or not.
Yeah, we can hear you.
We can hear you. You just coming in and out. That's the only issue.
Yeah. Now, I will respectfully give. Calm down, sir. Sorry about my dog. I will respectfully give like a good 70%. Or like you said, use the example of 83% population in that area is Black. I would say a good 70% to be Black owned, because let's be honest, not everybody's business minded and not everybody's able to handle a business. So I say good 65 to 70%, but the other end of that, the rest of that 83% should be employed by that 65 to 70%.
Yeah. All right.
So,
good point.
Now I get to do this. I get to do this because Mr. Martin, there's one thing that we do on this show that I haven't done in a while. Well, not I, but we haven't done in a while, where we look at YouTube videos and we dissect them. So I'm about to play a video, and 9 times out of 10, the videos that I play is videos I haven't seen myself. So this is the first time that not only just us, but also the audience, we will watch it together And if you see anything that just triggers you a little bit, or you just be like, "Oh, let me go ahead and correct that," you can just say stop or pause.
Hey, you should have warned me, man. I could have went and got the bottle beforehand so we could make this drinking game. Because the last one would have got me ripped. So
Yeah,
I'm definitely able to do this one.
So this is the thing that we do with the show. So I'm just gonna let you know and ask for permission that you are willing to take a part with this, Mr. Martin.
Things on that.
Okay.
Hopefully he come back in. He's like, all right. So I'll take that as a yes. So let's go ahead and take this video off.
Yeah, what's going on here? I'm kind of going in and out, so I'm not sure if I'll get a chance to see it or not.
Oh, you will. You'll be able to. Are you able to see us on the screen?
I can now. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So here we go. So let me go and give y'all the opener of this video. So they're called the conservative twins. They're two black brothers that look exactly the same. And in this video is them. They're both are exposing the White Lives Matter and Black Lives Matter. Once again, disclaimer, I have not seen this video. My panel, have you seen this video or heard of it?
No. No, I had to change smoking for this because twin black conservatives. Let's go.
All right. So here we go. First of all, let me get my rear end straight. Hold on, let me see. Here we go.
Brother man back. Let's see what they're talking about over here.
I got so many tabs. Okay, here we go.
Black Lives Matter lie. Yeah, everywhere you go. I go to Grubhub, Uber Eats, Twitter, Facebook. Hell, Instagram. I get a telemarketer calling me. Please donate to Black Lives Matter. I'm tired of this damn lie, so I'm going to expose it. Yeah, I'm not going to tell you. I got to show you, because if I don't show you, you're going to call me a liar and a sellout and an Uncle Tom and a coon. Bad things happen to all races by the cops. Yeah, that damn catchphrase, Black Lives Matter, it duped a lot of us, but it didn't get us. Yeah, it's catchy though, but I didn't fall for it. Look here, first case.
Newly released body camera footage of this police shooting shows Daniel Shaver's last moments. Police were responding to reports of a man pointing a rifle out of a hotel room window.
Hands up in the air! You do that again, we're shooting you. Do you understand? Do not shoot me.
Begging for his life.
Then listen to my instructions. I'm trying to do it.
Pause.
Hands straight up in the
Damn. First pause.
Yeah. First off, I just get annoyed when I see brothers that look so much like me say stupid things with the air of, I've never personally had any first or second hand experience with police brutality, so there's no truth to it. That annoys me. But continue. I just had to get that off my chest right there.
Gotcha. Here we go.
air. Do not put your hands down for any reason. You think you're gonna fall, you better fall on your face. Your hands go back in the small of your back or down. We are going to shoot you. Do you understand me?
An officer then orders Shaver to crawl toward him. Shaver complies, but then moves his right hand behind him despite the warning. Officer Philip Mitchell Brailsford fires 5 rounds, killing Shaver. Brailsford was charged with second-degree murder over this January 2016 shooting. In an interview with police, he said he thought Shaver was going for a gun, saying, quote, "He could have easily and quickly drawn a weapon down on us and fired without aiming. and he could have hit us or the citizen that we had just detained. No gun was found on Shaver. Brailsford was acquitted last week.
This kid is drunk. Yeah. He's begging for his life. Yeah. And the cop shoots him anyway. Yeah. The cop walks. Yeah, got acquitted. You didn't hear about it because he's white. Just imagine if this kid's name was Tyrone. A black kid crying. Imagine if this was George Floyd begging
All right,
for
all
his...
right. I'm going ahead and pause this. So let me go ahead and crush what they're saying about if it was a white person, then they wouldn't get this reported. Let's think for a minute here. Let's get something straight here. How many cases compared to when they have the black people? Just think about it. They even says it in the stats that black communities are heavily crowded with cops, even though I'm using play on words here, but cops are always in that neighborhood. So hearing this story, probably in a predominantly white neighborhood, I mean, I'm not saying that it's rare, but it's not that common. So for them to sit there as two brothers sitting there saying, well, this should have been reported. Well, CNN just reported it. CNN just showed that. And you get mad that he got acquitted. So why don't you use that same exact energy when these cops got acquitted when they kill black people? I mean, the only consistency that I'm not seeing here is both of y'all energies. That's my issue with that.
Now, I heard one random consistency between that white boy getting shot and the average black man getting shot unjustly by the cops. And that's when the officer said, I felt as though he had a gun and he could have shot us. You are trained. You are trained.
Yeah.
There is no reason why someone with training and more than 4 feet of distance and an assault rifle from that vantage point, even if he had a weapon, at best it was a handgun. And before he could even reach for it, you'd have took him down.
Yeah. Yeah, you would think so. Anybody else got anything? I'm sorry. Go ahead. Sorry,
yeah, but even with that many people on him, let's say, for instance, yeah, he had a gun. You got SWAT gear on, with a helmet, with the visor. Even if he's a crack shot, at best he's gonna hit your finger. He's not gonna hit any major arteries or any major body parts because you're already covered.
Right.
Calm down, sir.
Right.
I understand. Mm-hmm. Yes. See, he understands the ignorance too.
What about you?
I was having technical difficulties and I did not actually see the footage, so I don't want to comment.
Okay, all right. So you're already
we ain't that far in it, so
yeah, we ain't that far in it. So we just getting started. I mean that's I had the second stop and Beast Johnson had the first. And Mr. Martin, he's back in. He's having kind of technical difficulties on his end. So here we go. Let's continue.
It's life, yeah. It'd be front page news, but you didn't because it's some white kid with privilege. They're not going to show you that case because they're trying to spin it like this only happens to black folks. Next case.
Tony's the only thing we can get. In 2016, Tony Timpa called Dallas police for help.
Yeah.
You're going to kill me. And this
We're gonna kill me. Was the help he got. I can't.
Strained.
No, hey, back to school.
And mocked until he died.
This is a tragedy. It was needless and avoidable.
From a Dallas parking lot, Timpa dialed 911 and said he was a schizophrenic, was off his meds, and had taken cocaine.
Tell me. Look at me, bro.
Officers show up, but Timpa is hysterical, already handcuffed by a store security guard. He's then restrained like this for about 14 minutes. and officers can be heard laughing as Timpa's face is buried into the ground. Jeff Henley is representing Timpa's family against the city of Dallas in a federal lawsuit. He says officers knew Timpa was on something and should not have restrained him this long.
From this, radically prone position, Tony is going to suffer asphyxia.
When Timpa does stop breathing, officers continue to crack jokes.
Is he asleep? He's snoring, that's what it was.
But they stop in their tracks when a paramedic says the 32-year-old is dead.
He's what? He died just like George Floyd did. Yeah, smothered him to death. But this guy didn't have an extensive prison record like George Floyd, right?
And what do that have to do with anything?
Thank you.
What do a person's past has to do with that? And I guarantee you, these two, I can't believe I'm about to say it. These two gentlemen.
No, there's nothing gentle about the men. No.
They probably had to go way back into some video archives to find that, which proved this point that I said earlier. Cops heavily populate the black community. They go and police there more than they would do in a common white area. This is why we got marches like Black Lives Matter. That's why they out there protesting, because I guarantee you it probably took them days, or they probably knew somebody in the media, and even the person in the media looking these videos up probably took a while to find videos like these. And then also, these videos are not even recent. I promise you. I guarantee they probably, I would say, I'm gonna be nice, probably 3 years ago. Maybe even 4 years ago.
The first one was 4 years.
So let me ask you this. Help me out here. So their argument is that white people are being killed by the police just like black people, but the media is not blowing up the white on white violence. Is that their position?
That's the underlying perception that they're trying to get to. That would be the counterpoint.
Well, the fallacy of that is, like I said earlier, is that blacks are crying out because it is happening to them. And if it was a question of police brutality, where is the police brutality movement to cry out for all individuals that's getting killed by the police? Because yes, this is an example of when the police, are trigger happy, and it happens across across racial lines.
It does.
But in what percentages, and it hasn't happened so much. Where is the police brutality lives matter? I mean, seriously, where is that movement?
Right.
So you can't tell me because my foot is cut off.
Right.
I am in excruciating pain that other people have a similar pain and I should be quiet. No, that's all wrong. If you want to lead the movement on all people who have suffered police brutality, fine, because I know there have been several police brutality cases around the whole United States, but whether they have come together in one movement, that I can't tell you. And obviously they can't either.
Yeah, I mean,
what they're trying to diminish the cry. They're trying to null the ears, null the senses for the Black lives that have been taken without any thought.
Yeah, and I actually got into it with somebody on Instagram, actually two people on Instagram, when driver Bubba Wallace, I mentioned that on Friday's show about him, who actually came out and said, he wore the Black Lives Matter and all that stuff. Somebody on the post sitting there saying, well, I got pulled over and all that stuff. And I just told him straight up, I said, in your white privilege, you didn't die. And he basically used the same exact argument that these two guys are trying to put out there. And I was like, okay, cool. I'll meet you in the middle. Where's the protest? Where's the protest for all lives matter? Where's the protest for like we get it too? Like y'all should have the same exact energy as Black Lives Matter is. I mean, let me be devil's advocate. A lot of the ethnicity, definitely white folks, and this gonna hurt people's feelings, but you know I'm calling like it is on this show. This is what Fade to Black is. A lot of different people of color have jumped on the bandwagon of Black folks and they benefited off it. Affirmative action is not even going geared to Black people, it's geared to white women. I mean, these are realities that people fail to understand. Majority of the civil rights, look who's getting the most civil rights now. That is the gay community. Where do the Black fall? We do the work, but we don't get the rewards. We don't reap the rewards. We get the blood, sweat, and tears, and we get the accolades for like, yeah, they bring awareness to it. And for these guys to be this disingenuous is disheartening. But you know, when you jump to a side, no matter, mainly conservatives pay a lot of people a whole lot of money, a whole lot.
Yes,
but pay them a whole lot of money to sit there and push out their agendas and all that stuff. Well, I'm happy because I didn't hurt your feelings. but for them to spew out this, and I was listening to, not trying to ramble on a little bit too much because we're gonna continue on the video, but since I got it in my head, when people sit there and they say these things, oh, they just in their opinion. Y'all know how I am about that. It's all about statement. It's a statement. But now it's coming to a point where when people spew this stuff, when they say these things,
they keep telling.
When they say these things, it's become dangerous because you got impressionable minds out there that would take this and they will run with it.
Mm-hmm.
And they will sit there and they will say, well, I heard it from these two guys. They said that it's true. Because you got people who won't do the research.
I break it down to a debate.
And it sucks.
It does.
It's crazy.
Because what this is supposed to be is a debate. You have points.
Right.
And there's a counterpoint. Now, for every point I have, you must have a counterpoint. And here's the problem with the All Lives Matter versus Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter is the talking point. Well, you have, if you just want to use the subject of police brutality and being unjustly shot for no apparent reason, the points that I have just for that particular topic are endless. How many points do you have?
Right.
I could rattle all day on just the police brutality aspect of why Black Lives Matter. How many valid counterpoints do you have? Take the emotion out of it. As a Black man, I can take the emotion out of somebody posted a comment on Facebook and it went, what was the first time you ever had a gun pulled on you? Or had a gun put on you by the police? And it was just so many brothers commenting. And there were some white people in there as well, some other ethnicities. But going back to the disproportionate of it, the ages for all the Blacks. I myself was 13 first time I had a white man pull a gun on me. You had people that were 8, 9. Most of the white kids was like 20s, teens. All the Blacks, barely, most of us had experienced that before we experienced puberty.
Ain't that something? That's crazy.
That right there is very systemic, and that right there, it only further proves the point of Black Lives Matter. Because if we don't stand up, and do what we need to do for ourselves. If we allow them to sit there and kill us, hey, Mexicans, you think you ain't next?
Right.
Hey, Asians, you think you ain't short behind? Hey, Punjabs. Hey, Hindis. Hey, Shiites. Hey, Arabs. Hey, enter your nationality or your heritage. If they take down one, you think they ain't gonna go after you?
Yep.
Kill you after they milk you dry?
Mm-hmm. And see,
So if we sit here and allow it, y'all right behind us.
Yep. Yep. It's next man up. Next group up.
Exactly. You better wise up.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of wising up, let's see what else these guys got to say.
And the cops are mocking the dude after he's dead. They saying they sleep. Yeah.
All right, one more point. When you sit there and say the cops were mocking this kid, remember that one kid that shot up all those church going folks in Bible study? Yeah, that guy. Remember when the cops apprehended him and took them to the car and then took them to Burger King, bought him a burger, and then one of the cops said something in the words of, I'm kind of paraphrasing, about the N-words and all that stuff. So you go sit there and say, well, the cop mocked them, where you had cops literally taking basically a terrorist to Burger King after they arrested them. And
Look, I've been arrested. I ain't never got a trip to Burger King beforehand. Wasn't no Burger King before booking. I can tell you that much.
Only thing I can say is when I got arrested, we went by a Burger King. We went by.
Yeah, we passed by it.
We went by McDonald's. We went by an Arby's. I can name all the restaurants, including Chipotle. I mean, we went by them. We ain't stopped there, but we went by them. Anything that
basically that message sent to me and the world is they were congratulating Dylan Roof for a job well done.
Basically, I mean, one of the cops. I need to go back.
That was his reward.
Yeah,
they basically told him it was a couple less niggas in the world. Good job.
Yeah, and that's what the conversation basically was. I need to go back because I knew one of the cops did say something in the lines of with the N word and about like you shouldn't be apprehended and all that stuff. But I mean, it's nice, not even just a criminal, but a terrorist, basically a domestic terrorist, and just give him a burger. I mean, hey.
You want onions on your waffle?
Mm-hmm. He probably got with cheese too, Whopper with cheese.
All right, was it double?
You didn't hear about it because he's white. Imagine if this guy was a black guy. 2 police officers standing over a black body, laughing. Not gonna hear about it. Doesn't fit the media narrative. Next case.
Police body camera footage captured the
you
shooting,
know what?
and the moment officers realized
Go ahead.
Listen, the media is not going to talk about it. What has been so prevalent in these cases that are coming out is that the citizen is taping it, going live on social media. And only after it blows up on social media that news jump in and take it. So it's not that the media is just like, oh, another black man got killed. No. But when he start hitting 1 million hits, 2 million hits, we got to cover. We have to be the first to cover this story.
Mm-hmm.
So, they're off base.
Oh, they're really off base. But hey, we here to go ahead and correct.
Get them back in line.
Yep, basically. And these are the people you need to watch out for, and that they're dangerous not only to the culture but also to the world and society that we know it.
They're dangerous to your life.
Right.
6-year-old Jeremy Martist, who is autistic, died in the front seat, shot 4 times. His father, Chris Few, was critically wounded. Speaking publicly about that night for the first time today, Mr. Few told the jury officers gave no warning before they opened fire. I had my hands in the air, Few testified. I put my hands out the window. They kept shooting. Several witnesses also told the jury Mr. Few had his hands up, which body camera footage appears to confirm.
But Officer Derek Stafford's attorney says he and his partner acted in self-defense after a 2-mile pursuit.
He negligently and intentionally reversed his vehicle in an attempt to hit the officers.
Gotcha.
Few admitted to drinking that night, but
Yeah, I was about to say something. Good thing you said something first.
From his candor, from his tone and eloquence and dramatic pausing, I got to play the conspiracy. I got to be the Dick Gregory. Just call it out for what it is. Those black officers were there, but they most likely were not the ones that shot. But they take rap for it because he's purposely.
Yeah.
Every black man knows. He talking like he got caught, like he almost got caught. He got to explain it to his girl, and he trying to make sure he say the right word that don't send up her antennas. This is what this man is doing now.
Just playing cover up.
Exactly, and you see that countless times. There's plenty of black cops or quote unquote black dirty cops that got caught up because they happen to be around the wrong white folk, and that white person got caught up. They'll believe Derek is a dirty cop before they believe white Craig.
So I'm just gonna leave a name, and if you don't have anything to add, or I'm gonna say it and then I'm gonna leave that to the video. Anything to add? Teach.
I'm listening.
Yeah, I said if you have anything to add.
Oh, no.
Okay. So I'm gonna leave you with this name, and then we're gonna go back to the video to sum up this part of the video that we're watching. Tamir Rice.
Exactly.
Tamir Rice. If y'all haven't heard of it, what's that, Teach?
12-year-old boy playing on the playground.
Mm-hmm. So they're wasting their tears. I'm not saying this story or instance, is not justified. I'm not saying that, but at least their father was there with them. Tamir Rice was by himself at the park, and they thought that he had a handgun, which turned out to be a toy gun, and they shot him within 12 seconds. Let that marinate a bit.
No, this is what you need to let marinate. There are black people. Like, I grew up not owning certain type of toy guns for that exact reason.
Yep.
I got suspended from school for having a little toy gun, no bigger. It fits in the palm of a 5-year-old's hand. And my father went ballistic. And it wasn't until Columbine that I realized why he was so heated about what happened. Even though I didn't get in like real trouble, he knew what could have happened. They easily could have heard young black boy at an elementary has a gun, and they just shot my black ass.
Yep. So let's continue.
Told the jury he would never hit an officer and only wanted to get his son to a caretaker so the boy wouldn't be involved in a possible arrest. The prosecution argues nothing Few did that night justified the deadly response.
Derek Stafford is on trial. And it's just a shame that they want to put the victim on trial.
A 6-year-old white autistic kid and his father get shot up, gunned down by 2 black police officers. Now, the father lived, but the kid didn't. Yeah. You didn't hear about this because the victims are white. Yeah, little boy, man, 6 years old, got shot 5 times. They emptied 18 rounds in that car.
that horrible thing that happened to Tamir Rice up in Cleveland, right? They singing that out like this only happens to black kids. There's an article I found. Now tell them, Tamir Rice was a 12-year-old kid. Yeah. They got shot and killed because he was brandishing a fake gun. A toy gun. It looked real. It was a gun replica. Yeah. Right? Cops roll up, shoot and kill the young kid, right? Now, this is not an isolated...
I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna stop. You realize that they're making excuses. If anybody's catching that, you realize that they're making excuses for Tamir Rice. But oh my gosh, look what happened to these autistic kids and their father.
To teach, if I could, they've been sleeping white, and they've been sleeping white their whole life.
They're not only they're a product of white. I can't remember either they have a white mother and a black father, or they have a white father and a black mother. They are mixed. They are totally mixed. And so I think they did one of those DNA. I think they did one of those DNA shows, and because they're twins, their DNA came out different. But
okay, now look here. Look at them noses. Look at them faces. Look at them ears. Boy, you Negro.
Yeah. I mean, they are wider than mine.
Your nose wider than mine.
But look at those lips.
Yeah, look, no. They mulatto. They ain't Louisiana like. They ain't Princess Markle. They ain't that level.
They are mixed.
They think they think they Princess Markle in their mind. They when they look at themselves, they see a white dude. They see a white dude, a rugged white dude with strong chiseled features. No Negro.
Do their background. I think it's their mother. I think their mother or father. One or the other is Caucasian. So if it was their mother, definitely their orientation. Yeah, I mean, if it was the mother, they were raised white. That's all. So they're so far from the tree. So whatever the mother's views are, most likely they imbibe that mother's view because their mother was their teacher.
If I'm looking at
the first teacher, so they are mixed people, so they will straddle the fence because they are the fence.
Basically, right now I'm currently looking up the parents right now, but let's continue on with this craziness.
Incident. There's an article up on Washington Post written back in 2016. Over the span of 2 years, 85 to 86 shootings by cops, people brandishing fake toy guns. 50 of them that died out of the 86, they were white. You didn't hear about it because it doesn't fit the media narrative. That whole Black Lives Matter, it's a lie. That's what pisses people off in that organization, on the news. That's why they mock people when they say all lives matter. No, all lives matter doesn't. It's not that. It's just about Black lives. Because if you say all lives matter, it kills that narrative. That narrative falls apart. Everybody knows that there's black men is not being gunned down by systemically racist police force. They act like this damn United States is like a scene out of that damn movie, The Purge. And they keep saying, look at the prisons. All these black people incarcerated. Why? Because of the color of their skin, or because they was robbing people, killing people, committing crimes? If they're in jail because they're black,
the systemic issues that come from one's perceptive image and color are always seen in the prison system. I can attest I'm one of the few black men and brothers that got a quote unquote white sentence because I was honest, God was with me. And I ain't snitch on nobody. But how they would usually do brothers in jail. Like I've seen that brothers doing 30 years and they 50 years old over $60 worth of cocaine. Meanwhile, you got a white dude in here for double homicide, and he'll be home in 7. You got brothers that, like my uncle, who through bad lawyering, because they're not going to give a skilled lawyer to a black man. If they perceive you as being either incompetent or ill-equipped, they'll give you to that black man because they feel like, all right, we've done our part. Now we can really ensure that that black man goes to jail. You see this countless times. I take it a step further. I was in court and had a white man in the beginning of the court get sentenced to 30 days. He'd already done 8, so he only had to do like actually 21 days in county jail, and he cussed out the judge, called him every name under the book. Every black person after that got sentenced to prison. Every black person after that heard the same phrase: "You are not a candidate for probation. Serve your sentence." There was no hearing anybody out.
So these, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I apologize.
Well, no. That's pretty much one way. Like for you to say ignorance like that, it goes back to my earlier point. These are two individuals that have never had any kind of first or second hand experience, not within their core family unit, not within their core support system or their friend or their personal circle. They've never had to deal with that at all. None of their friends have had anything close to it, so they have no real experience to latch onto. So all they can do is go on sound bites.
Well, also you can see that they was very sheltered in their upbringing, as you can see, because I guarantee they never were exposed to anybody that looked like us.
No.
What they
I won't even say that. Any black person that they were around was the Boulay brothers, the successful blacks, the type of blacks you want to be, the type of blacks that got in to fit in.
The one with the bow ties, bow ties.
The ones that look white.
Yeah, and I can see that with these guys. I guarantee you, just them going into a predominantly black Atlanta probably will just make the hair on their freaking arm stand up. You can tell with these gentlemen. They live in suburbia, as I don't call it the suburbs, suburbia. And they've been living over there. They sheltered so they can talk on a perspective on the outside rather than looking in the inside. And you have to realize that you're black too. But as long as I keep saying this, I'm good.
But you know what the tragic part about that is, though? You run across white kids and white people that they have the exact same mentality as they do. They have the exact same upbringing as they do. But they're more inclined to hear you out. And they're more inclined to have a civil conversation versus, I can't call them our people because they don't relate and they go out of their way to not relate to our people.
Right.
So these outcasts, outsiders.
It's crazy. Anything to add, Teach?
I would just say that their point, we've talked about these other people that don't necessarily identify with the African American community, and they always either making a statement or doing things that says I'm not like them. And again, these two fall in that category by trying to dismantle Black Lives Matter by showing that white people are going through the same thing. And it still comes back to, if I'm crying out because I'm in pain, you cannot diminish me by saying another person is in pain.
Right.
I have a movement that's talking about all the people like me that's in pain. Then either you can join the movement or start your own movement that you feel is so valid, for White Lives Matter. White Lives Matter against police brutality. I mean, that's a police brutality issue, and you can have that rainbow coalition if you want to just always. I think bottom line, it's just wrong to diminish a person's pain.
Right.
If you find other evidence, then let the people that's in that pain, let them cry out.
Yeah.
Because when white people don't like something, i.e., what we just recently witnessed with the COVID-19, they didn't like the stay-at-home order. So they armed themselves with military rifles and stampeded how many state capitals? Okay, they started a movement. We don't want to stay home. We think
I need to do
COVID-19
both.
is a hoax. So they cried out of their pain. That was the manifestation of what they were feeling. Nobody had to tell them, or nobody had to diminish what they were feeling. We all just thought they was a little crazy, but we didn't diminish their right to assemble. Basically, showing up with AR-15s or AK, whatever they are, that's an act of war. But they were good boys, and they were frustrated being at home, and they did like the governor telling them they had to stay at home because they felt that it was an infringement upon their rights.
Which
so
is crazy.
The manifestation, they went out to the Capitol to say their frustration. So if the autistic child and the other drunk white man and the other high white man, lost their life at the hands of police brutality, where is your movement?
Yeah. Yeah, because basically what you're doing is just spraying complaints, basically. So let's
I
go
have a
ahead.
better question. I have a better question to add to Teach. If you feel so passionate about these issues of police brutality, why not join in and further understand that, hey, this movement is not just about the blacks. It's about everyone that has dealt with this systemic type of unjust police brutality.
Yep. It's
We're
all
just
about
going to be the loudest ones.
yeah. It's all about keeping the same energy. I mean, you're sitting there saying, yeah, this is a free country. You realize the symbolism that they got in the back, they got a United States flag back there. So with that being said, you should understand where Black Lives Matter is coming from. But let's continue on with this craziness, and then we're gonna close out the show.
Come on, it's 2020. It's pretty easy to get them out. You gotta have evidence to be in jail. Derek Chauvin's case, they're painting this like he's a white supremacist. Right. That he killed George Floyd because he was black. But why is that the default? Simply due to the fact that Chauvin was a white guy and George Floyd was black? I could see if there's evidence that this dude was in the KKK or he had racist emails. There's a history of racism, Nazi tattoos or something. It's got to be something. Your default cannot be racist just because he's white and the victim's black. That's being racist. Look, the 4 cops involved with George Floyd's death, and that was a murder. Yeah. All 4 of them need to be held responsible for that. Right. I'm not saying that. But the 4 police, it wasn't 4 white police officers. No. 2 of them was white. Yeah. 1 was Asian. Yep. And the other one was black. Yeah. So how is this prove that there's systemic racism in the police force? Why does...
Stop. I had enough. I
Who even brings up the argument? Who even brings up the argument? George Floyd was black, so Black Lives Matter.
Right.
Regardless of the race of the officers. But if they do further investigations, the club owner said that
They
they've
knew
been
each other
working
and
together.
they had issues.
They have a
Mhm.
personal beef to find out what was happening on the job. Because that to
Right.
me tells me, and
It
that
does.
he wasn't a stranger.
No, he
So
wasn't.
that is the fact that they work together tells me motive, and they need
Mhm.
to investigate and bring the charges to first degree because everything of that case reeks from the caller to whether or not it was a fake check to a fake $20 bill to uh you know the officers coming and passing a note, walking directly to him some several minutes after he left the store because the call wasn't put in until after he left the store. He was still sitting across the street and they walked directly to his vehicle and pull him out, and there's three people in the vehicle, but they clearly identified that it's George. That's reeks of setup. There's no way in
Mhm.
the world I can get a call on my radio and it says, there's a black male, blah, 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 and I come to the scene. I don't even go to the store. I go directly to the vehicle.
Hmm.
That reeks of setup all day long. It doesn't even take a rocket scientist to put those dots together. It's too many dots missing.
Hmm.
And then the fake EMS. It was not EMS. Those were sheriff deputies.
Exactly.
So that's further indicate to me a supreme setup. They had their own EMS waiting because they was gonna make sure that man died, whether he died at his hands on the street or he was gonna die on the way so called to the hospital without a
You,
real EMS tech. That Derek Chauvin called in all his friends. Hey, EMS, we need a truck. I need some sheriff deputies. These are his poker buddies. You know, that just reeks of setup to me.
Yeah, but for them to sit there and say those things, it is like the excuses were for the other cases, but when it came to us, it was this, and I promise you, I know on my timeline they be posting a lot of these brothers. I'm not even calling brothers. They be posting these guys videos to they're saying, "Oh, they speak the truth. They they say everything correct. They said everything right." And I'm like, y'all never want to sit down and actually talk to somebody that is black or somebody of color and sit down and actually, how does it feel getting pulled over by the cops? Don't sit there when they tell you a story, be like, well, I got pulled over by the cops. Nothing happened to me. That's the issue and that's the problem. But then when you get people that look like us that sit there and back them and saying that, well, it shouldn't always be about race and we shouldn't do this and we shouldn't do that. But only thing I gotta say, but I won't say only thing I gotta say, but to sum that all up in this, them buttermilk biscuits must be tasting that good, fresh out the oven, just tap dancing. I know their feet gotta hurt just a little bit, Cheech. I mean, just a little bit, Beach Johnson. Just, I mean, sometimes you don't have to shuck and jive too hard to know that you're for them. I mean,
when you saw shoe like they do,
I think in their case, they, I mean, it is their DNA. And
mhm.
so part of their DNA is speaking. That's all. It's part of their DNA.
but see, I it kind of get me frustrated that there's these guys that get. I think that got let me check the video count. How many they got views? They got, well, this one they just got 449 because this was just 4 days ago. But their videos get 1 million hits.
Because what that person said is code. You know, you always say something and then you say something else that you really trying to say, but the situation will not allow you to say it. Now, not everybody is blunt or just brutally honest. So you gotta play with the words. So when anytime I hear a white person refer to a black person, oh, I like that person. I like that. I like this one right here. I like what they be saying. They talking facts. That's code for this coon knows their place and knows how to keep me appeased. I like them.
Yeah. So for
I like the way
anybody
they
who is
talk
a
to me.
white, yeah. So for anybody who is white that's watching the show, this is what we're talking about. Just because you can point out one that's successful does not don't generalize it in like, well, we need to replicate what this person has done and all that stuff. You gotta really have to ask yourself, what did that person exactly do for one? And then number two, look into my situation or what is holding me back. These are the things that you have to sit down, once again, sit down and listen. This is why, once again, I keep bringing up the show, why this show is important. You're in our world now. You're not going to hear that bullshit that you just saw. The reason why we play videos like that, and there's going to be more to come, and we continue to dissect them, is because that is not us. That is what you want us to be or should be. That's not going to happen. We're not going to say things to give you comfort. If you really want all this, what's going on in the world, to be over, this is the time for you to sit down, shut up, and listen. If you're sick and tired of Black Lives Matter, maybe it's time for you to sit back and shut up and listen. It's like going to a therapist where you kept on saying, it's nothing wrong with me, there's nothing wrong with me, but you continue to have the same exact problems. Now that you start to see the symptoms start to get worse, and now you sit with that therapist, the therapist now you ready to listen? Now you gotta sit down and shut up and be like, okay. You can continue yourself and just ignore that nothing's happening for a long time until finally you start to see the symptoms. You start to see your world start to crumble in on you. You can't blame nobody but yourself. Anybody else got anything to add to that before we head into the final thought? I think everybody's reading the comment.
I agree with him, Mr. McCary. They are full of crap.
Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong on this show with me bashing conservatives. Majority of them, I don't agree with them, but then there are some brothers out there that are conservative that means well. So I want to put that fact out there. But too many times, I've seen a lot of my Facebook friends, majority of them white, post these things and thinking that this is okay. This is great. This is what, other than Black Lives Matter, they're saying all lives matter. They're saying the things that we're saying. That does not make it right. Because I ask you this question. I throw this out there. What real Black communities have you ever went into? Which once again goes back to what Cheech was saying. What protests are you leading to say that this is happening to us and nobody's saying anything about it? You got to have a balance. You got to have that same exact energy. But now since it's, oh, woe is me, I used to be your, the top guy, or as they would say in strip clubs, I used to be your top girl. Now all of a sudden you worry about this new one coming in. What about me? And it's just crazy to me. So when y'all see people just like these guys, they don't speak for me. And just because they don't speak for me does not mean that they're right, because they make you feel comfortable. So let's stop it when y'all just post that one Black person that's doing great, who's a millionaire or billionaire. And then you got to also ask yourself too, what are they using their wealth to contribute to the Black community, to pass on that knowledge? But nobody don't want to ask that. They just see it on surface value. But anything else, anybody else want to add?
I just wanted to say, just very quickly, is that we are a diverse people, Some people would choose the route of assimilation, and some people would choose the route of self identification. And those that choose the route of assimilation, I just find them inauthentic, and they're like Stepford wives or Stepford husbands. They make the same point. They don't deviate from the script. And for me, how can you do that?
Right.
So it's just inauthentic. That's the bottom line. And as soon as one of these individuals um, face this same type of trouble, then they want to come to the cookout. They want to be invited to the cookout. And I believe there was a police chief. I can't remember the location, but he had just given a great speech about how the police at that particular protest had really acted professional and there was no problems and blah blah blah. And a few hours later, he went either the same protest or a different protest, and those police officers turned on him and beat him with a baton. So now he has to eat crow in the media crying out, saying, "Oh, they beat me. I'm in pain." They didn't kill him. Thank God they didn't kill him. But he got swept up in whatever was happening in that protest. And to the police officer, he was just another black guy. He wasn't the police chief. They didn't even know who their police chief was.
You beat up
And
your
they beat
boss.
Ain't that
they
something?
beat him. So I mean, what's the price? I mean, for him, if they say karma um, it was paid back immediate. His karma came immediately. Other people, karma comes a little later if it comes. So for people like that, karma comes.
Yeah, eventually. I'm telling you, she come she gonna come a knocking. But
Mm-hmm.
we have hit into the final thought portion, our last segment of the show. But our show actually have a sponsor, and that sponsor is based on the creation of me and my boy Beast Johnson. That
Great. Congratulations.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and show that to the folks, and we will be right back with our final thoughts. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the Wet Network is right now in trial right now. So once we get a hold of things and all that stuff, we will let each and every one of y'all. If you have a web series, if you just have a vlog, hit us up. Let us know
You
on our
have
Facebook.
any type of creative energy or intellectual property that you want to invest into, then come to the network.
All right.
Mm-hmm. So let's go ahead and start with the final thought. And Beast Johnson, you got the floor.
Okay. I'm gonna leave my final thought with a little story called The Hangman, and the story takes place in a little random town, and the narrator explains that one day a hangman comes in, and with no explanation, no true just cause, just begins executing the townsfolk. And one by one, every town's inhabitant was hung until it was just the narrator left. And the narrator, too, succumbed to the hangman. Now, I tell that story to explain the virtues and the true reason behind Black Lives Matter is because in this race game, blacks have always been the dominant and perceived as the dominant or the most gifted. However you want to put it. The point is this: it's evident that they're coming after black people. They're trying to kill black people. And if they're successful in killing black people, what makes you think they won't kill you? Are you going to be the narrator and just watch the downfall of a race only to watch the downfall of another race, only to watch the downfall of your own race? Or will you stand up and say something? That's my thought that I leave to you.
My final thought on this topic today is that African Americans always push for the diversity that America thinks it believes in. And it's because of our actions that diversity is actually created. When we march for jobs to get into positions that we're educationally and professionally qualified for, when discrimination was the rule of the day, and no matter what you were qualified for, if you had the highest degrees, it's sometime in our nation you can only work in the train yard as a porter on the train. So we push for education, and all races in our nation begin to receive free education. We push for um, anti discrimination laws. We push for anti covenant laws because there were times in our nation where we were relegated to live only in certain areas, and that with these restrictive covenants, we whites could not sell to blacks, blacks could not buy from whites in terms of land and property, which kept us from living where we want to live. But it is these cases that we fought through the court system to remove the restrictive covenants. So now, um, with freedom, we can go into practically any neighborhood and purchase a home or land. So we push the envelope. Um, our fight is a fight of humanity and a fight of diversity. Uh, and when we open up a particular area, all the other races flow through it. So we are the champions of diversity in this nation. And that is my final thought.
Thank you, Teach. Now on to me. Once again, I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in, and then also people, who watch later. Thank you so very, very much. Hold on, my mouse got me on a different screen. So this is breaking news. David Goza, he will be coming on the show. Hopefully, it's going to be on Wednesday. Hopefully, he's still watching right now. Hopefully, he give me a message back. But yes, he will be the first white man on this show. So not even hopefully, he's going to be on the show. I hope he do not hold anything back. This is him to welcome him into our world, how it really goes down. So I don't want him to come in with no hesitations. I don't want him to beat around the bush. So we will have our first on the show. But I'm really excited on the outreach this show has gotten, because when I started the show, I couldn't even find the status so I can share out to the rest of the groups until other people was giving me the show, liking it and all that stuff, which I could see it on my notifications, and I started to share it out then. I don't know if that's on my end, an issue with my phone or whatever, or maybe Facebook is saying, hey, you're not able to share your stuff. I don't know, don't care. Well, no, I do care, because that's why I'm bringing it up. So that's telling me our show is breaking a little bit of rules here and there. Because this is something that needs to be done. This is something that needs to be said. I'm not saying that I'm the one that's breaking the mold. I'm not saying that at all. This is just a show that's just pushing this, not conversation. You can call the movie if you want to, but just pushing the narrative, keeping it alive, because people would just fall on false hope when, let's say, a law comes up and it's only just one, when it's many of them. And they would just be like, okay, we satisfied with this. No, I'm sick and tired of enjoying breadcrumbs. I want the whole damn meal. Not even just the whole damn meal. I want the whole damn kitchen with the refrigerator fully stocked. And this show is going to continue on. Because this is seen until all this, what's going on in the world right now, is going on, this narrative is still going to get pushed until we get what we've been fighting for. And we shouldn't be fighting for it because we did the groundwork. And we're still doing the groundwork. We're just saying you need to pay us what you owe. As long as this is still going on, this show, this special edition, will continue going on as well. And that will do it for us and do it for me. Any alibis before we head on out?
This is my alibi.
I would just like to thank all the listeners that tune in to each show, and just thank you for your comments and your stick-to-itiveness. Thank you, thank you, and thank you.
And once again, I always have to ask y'all, are y'all going to be in on Wednesday? Good?
Yes.
I'll be here Wednesday.
All right. And hopefully Alan Bragg will be back then. And then also, once again, Martin got to help him out a little bit with his technical difficulties and all that stuff. Hopefully he comes back. And then also, other than Goza, once I figure out a date when he's coming in, we also going to have another guest too as well that's from Bragg's neck of the woods, another activist, another a leader in her own right. She's going to be on the show soon, so keep an eye out for that. And then once again, I'm your host, Donella Monte Morris, Anita Joe, aka Teach, and my boy Beast Johnson. Y'all have a safe Monday and a safe week. Thank y'all for tuning in. We will see y'all on Monday. And also, I gotta show that commercial again, y'all. Watch out for the Wet Network, ladies and gentlemen. But once again, catch y'all later. Y'all have a good one.
Be blessed. Be safe.
Good night.
Bye.